Okay, we're on the second book of Samuel. So Saul dies, okay, and it creates a lot of drama. A lot of drama, alright? First of all, so Saul's dead, and David finds out about it, okay? So there's a Amalekite. I'm gonna get to the Amalekites later in another video, okay? He finds Saul and takes his crown and his bracelet and brings it all the way to David, thinking that he's going to get rewarded for giving him this message. Because David should hate Saul. Like, Saul tried to kill him, and now everyone thinks he's going to be happy that Saul's dead because now he's going to be king, right? No. So, this shows the character of David, how good he was, okay? This is why David is so much in the Bible, okay? So the Amalekite comes to him and says, "Oh, Saul's dead. I made sure he was dead. I cut off his head. He's dead. Don't worry, man. Don't worry, bro. I got it. I got you. And here's my proof. I took his crown. Now it's yours." What? No. First of all, David gets mad at him and he kills the Amalekite. First of all, God said to kill them all, right? Yes. Again, I'm going to get to the Amalekites in another video. And David laments. He has this big, long poem of how sad he is that Jonathan and Saul are dead. And this is where that famous quote, "Oh, how the mighty have fallen." He keeps saying, "How the mighty have fallen." He says really good things about Saul, even though Saul tried to kill him. It shows his character, right? That's the famous quote in the Bible, "How the mighty have fallen." He's talking about Saul. He says a bunch of good things about Saul. And so a lot of things happen though, okay? So what happens is they're getting ready to crown David, okay? What happens is this other guy named Abner runs to Saul's next of kin. And his name is Ishbosheth. Sorry, I can't say his name. And so he runs because he's the next of kin. So David is about to be king of Israel, but instead what happens is this guy, Abner, he crowns this guy, Ishbosheth. Sorry, I can't say his name. So he becomes the king of Israel. And then David becomes just the king of Judah, because the family of the tribe of Judah stays with him, okay? Everyone else ends up being under this other king, okay? This Saul lineage king, okay? So it becomes Judah, the house of David and Judah versus all the Israelites, okay? The rest of the Israelites, okay? And David has it's his cousin. Joab is his cousin, but he's the one that's really fighting for him. And this guy has Abner, but Abner's really the one running things, okay? So Joab and Abner are always at each other's throat, okay? And David asks to bring they're trying to make peace, okay? A little bit after a while, even though Joab and Abner are fighting and there's a big horse battle and everything. So he said that, David said, "Oh, I'll make peace with you, but I need you to bring Michal, my first wife, back to me." Michal and David do not like each other, okay? But David's trying to get her back. And Michelle, I'm gonna call her name's Michal, but it's like Michelle, okay? It's like a girl, okay? I'm trying to mention this is a girl. Okay. So she has to leave her husband, okay? Because she was married to a different guy at this point. Because David had during this book, David has 8 wives right now, but he wants his first wife back, even though they don't really get along, okay? So they send him back to her back to him as kind of like a peace offering, a little bit. All right. So she goes back to him, and her husband is really upset, and she's unhappy too. Okay, so that's what's happening. Okay, so I decided to use the same slide. So Abner and Joab are fighting, even though these two kings are trying to make peace, and Abner's pretending to make peace with David. But anyway, Joab, his cousin, kills Abner. Okay, Joab kills Abner, so Abner's no longer in the picture. And then what happens was Ishbosheth ends up being killed too. Okay, some other men kill Ishbosheth, and just like the Amalekite, they come to him. Oh, we killed the other king. I'm using the same picture, but it's the same kind of storyline. We're gonna go tell David we killed Ishbosheth for him. So that, again, just like with the Amalekite, he's like, hey man, good news, David, your enemy Ishbosheth we killed him for you. Right? Now I'm going to get rewarded. We're going to get rewarded. David never wanted that guy to be killed, just like he never wanted Saul to be killed. He's not trying to kill people to be king. That's not how he wants to do it. He wants to do it the right way, right? So guess what he does? David has those two guys killed instead. Instead of rewarding them, just like the Amalekite thought he was going to get rewarded, he kills them. And he takes Ishbosheth, because he still loves Saul, right? He takes the descendant of Ishbosheth, and he buries him with the kings. He honors Ishbosheth. And the Israelites see that, and they're like, yeah, David should be king. And he does become king of all Israel again. Okay? And I also wanted to bring in... Okay, so this is going to come up a little bit later. But, so... Back then, the custom was, or the law, I'm not going to say custom, I'm going to say the law was, the descendant becomes king, right? The next heir of the throne was supposed to be whoever the next of kin, basically, right? And it was supposed to be Jonathan, but Jonathan died with Saul. So, that's why this guy, Ishbosheth, became the king, right? But before that, there's another kin. There's this guy. He was only 4 years old at the time when Saul died. He was the son of Jonathan. Okay, his name is Mephibosheth. Meph, M-E-P-H. Okay, Mephibosheth. Okay, so what happened was, when Saul and Jonathan died, Mephibosheth's nanny, because he was only like 4 years old at the time, took him right away and got him out of the town. Okay, because they knew the custom was the new king was going to kill all the descendants if it wasn't the same kin. They thought David was king now, so they took all the rest of they took this 4-year-old. The nanny was scared for this 4-year-old, and so she took him to hide him from David, because he thought that David was going to kill him, right? And what happened was, there was an accident. So this 4-year-old, while the nanny was trying to take him away to keep him safe, that she dropped him and he became crippled. Okay, Jonathan's son became crippled. Okay. So that's what's happening right now, and I'm going to get back to that later. Mishlabeth, so I can't say his name. So all this stuff is happening now, okay? There's like a whole thing with Saul's lineage now, because David doesn't want to kill him. He's nice, right? So that's what's happening. And so Abner and Ishbosheth they're both dead now, okay? Okay, so, David finally becomes the king of Israel, okay, over all the king of Israel. He gets anointed king over the whole Israel, not just Judah, but over everyone, okay. So, what he wants to do is go to Jerusalem and take over the city of Jerusalem. Why does everyone want to be in Jerusalem? Why does God pick Jerusalem in the Bible? What's with Jerusalem? Okay, so back in the day, everyone wanted to be in Jerusalem because it had it was like a natural fort. Okay, yes, there were walls on top of the fort, but it was like very fortified, naturally fortified. It was a really good place to live because it was very protected by all these mountains, and these valleys went in and up. Like they went down like this and they went up right here. So it was really hard for enemies to attack this place, to attack the city, okay? It was a really hard place to take over. That's why there's... And so people wanted it because they knew how hard it was to defeat it, to get over all these mountains and these valleys, right? So all these wars were over Jerusalem because they wanted to own this really good piece of land, right? It was really safe and it was really fortified. So of course David wants it, right? So David, so also that's why you see in the Bible, it talks about Mount Zion in Jerusalem a lot. Mount Zion is the biggest mountain in Jerusalem, okay? It's in Jerusalem. It's the biggest mountain in Jerusalem, okay? And Jerusalem is a metaphor for God's protection, okay? For God's protection, and because there really was mountains and valleys back then that made it very fortified and protected. So when you read the Bible and you see Mount Zion and Jerusalem, it's a symbol for God's protection and his power, okay, for us. So David wants it, and everyone else wants it too, okay? So the king back then of the Jebusites, he said, "Except thou take away the lame and blind, thou shalt not come in hither." So he's mocking David. He's basically saying, see how this valley goes down and up, and there's a big wall. It's so hard to get in there. The king is basically saying that he's just gonna hire a bunch of blind people to stand on the top and throw rocks down at him, blind and crippled people, because he doesn't even have to try very hard to keep David away from taking over Jerusalem. He's mocking him. He's saying, like, I could just hire a bunch of crippled and blind people and throw rocks down at you. I don't have to fight you. You know what I mean? So David, he tells his army, he's like, okay, if one of you is brave enough and strong enough to climb up the bottom from the bottom, they can't go over. They can't climb this mountain and go over these walls. So David has a plan to go under it. Okay, so David, right here, I'm going to try to go to this picture. David has a plan to go under the city. Okay, and so, guess who, of course, Joab is not Zoan. Joab is the one that wants to do it. So Joab climbs up this gutter, okay? Climbs at the bottom to this gutter, a water hole opening. Okay, that's also why Jerusalem is so valuable, because it has water running through it. Okay, and that water is still there still there now. Okay, this is the water shaft. I'm trying to bring in some archaeological evidence in this because sometimes I forget. This is the water shaft it's still there. They discovered it not that long ago, guys. This is the water shaft that Joab climbed up into the city. It's still there. It's real. Okay, the Bible's real. You guys, it's so funny because later, I'm going to talk about it later, but this king he refortified this water shaft. He put like a bunch of walls, and he made a better waterway for all these for the city. This one. Okay, he made all these walls. This king later made all these walls that went under the city, okay? These walls are like literally like 3,000 years old, and they're still there. God, why do you think that it's still there? Because obviously it's made out of bedrock and it's strong, right? It's all symbolic. Also because God wants us to look for the stuff, and he left it here for us to see that the Bible is not a book of myths, okay? So this king made this water shaft under Jerusalem, and no one believes the Bible, right? So for like literally like 2,000 years, 1,000 years, something like that, they had no idea these water shafts were under Jerusalem. For a long time, they didn't know. Because even though it was in the Bible this whole time. You know what I mean? This is what happens when you don't pay attention and read the Bible. They're like, whoa, you mean these water shafts in the Bible are real? Yes, they're real. The shafts are real because the Bible is not a book. It's historical documents. This Bible is real. Okay, back to the story. Woo! Alright, I'm going to get into, so David builds his palace, okay. He gets to Jerusalem. It becomes the city of David. It's still there. You can still visit it today. Now I'm going to get into the Ark of the Covenant, okay. The Ark, so David wants the Ark with him. He wants it in Jerusalem. So they go get the Ark, okay. And the Ark, they build a new cart for it, and they have the mules bringing the Ark over, okay. And it tips over a little bit, and this guy tries to steady it. Innocent, right? He touches it, and he dies. Okay, that happens before too, and the First Samuel, when they bring the Philistines stole the ark, and they went to go send it back. They put it on some ox with no humans, right? They just sent it back to the Israelites, and someone else died that time too. Okay, why? Why did this guy die, and why did the other guy die? Just from touching the ark and just for being around the ark. If you go back in the time of Moses, there was very specific instructions on how to carry the ark. Okay, very specific instructions how to carry the ark. They had to be Levites, and they had to be a certain family of the Levites who were special anointed to carry the ark. It can't just be anyone, and it definitely can't just be you can't just throw it on a cart and have an animal carry it. And there's a spiritual reason why these anointed people were the only ones allowed to carry it. Okay? This is like, if you ever watch movies, or if you go to like old-timey like parades and stuff, you see all these men, you always notice like the men are carrying the prince or the king or the queen, or you ever notice like the men are carrying the pharaoh or whatever. Okay, there's a spiritual reason why certain people are allowed to carry their god, is the point. Okay, you can't just throw these guys on top of an animal and like there's a very spiritual reason why only certain men can carry their god or their king. Okay, that was the point. That was why that's why they got into trouble. Okay, because these guys were not carrying it like this. They weren't carrying it like this. They are throwing it in the back of a thing where the ox would carry it, because they got lazy, right? They got lazy. They didn't want to carry it anymore. So, of course, when it tipped over and this guy was just trying to steady it, yes, he was a bit innocent, but there's reasons why God said it had to be carried in a certain way. And they were not doing what God said, and so that's how that guy died, okay? And it all has to do, this is why you see the stuff in movies too, okay? That's why you see the stuff in cultures. You see the men carrying the king on these rods, okay? That's what this is, okay? That's what this is. Same thing. Their God, our God, is in this. It doesn't look like this. It doesn't look like this, because it's the Ark of the Covenant, okay? God is in it, but that's why they have to carry it like this. You can't just throw it on the back of an animal and expect him not to like bad things to happen. There's a reason why he said not to do it like that. There's a reason why there's a spiritual reason why everyone carried their king that way. They're their God, right? Okay. So that's what's happening so far, and that's why. Okay, so David has built his palace. It's still, the remnants of it are still there. Okay, here's the city of David, by Jerusalem, right? It's still there. You can still visit it. It's still there because the Bible's real. I'm gonna keep pounding that into everyone's head. When we get to chapter 7, so David, he feels bad because he's in this fancy palace, and he's trying to tell God he wants to build a temple for him. It's like, God, I want to build you a really nice house too. And God's like, I don't want you to build me a house. Like, that's fine. But then God tells him a prophecy. Like, all right, he's like, um, he's talking about Jesus. Like, he's and your house. He goes into this big long spiel about how your seed is gonna rule the kingdom of earth, and um, it's an establish a kingdom for everyone, and your house and your kingdom shall be made sure forever before me, and your throne shall be established forever. He's talking because Jesus came from David, okay? He came from David's lineage, okay? Um, uh, so when he's, like, it's God's like David's trying to build him just like an actual house, like an actual temple, and God's like, you don't understand. My son is gonna build the real kingdom, like the real kingdom, right? Like, and it's David's other son Solomon actually builds the real temple, right? But God's like, you don't understand what the real kingdom is. The real kingdom and the real king is gonna be Jesus. You're from your lineage is gonna be Jesus, and he's gonna build the real kingdom, which is heaven, right, guys? And the whole point is, God's plan is bigger than our plans, right? We think very little. We think very materialistically, all right? Very materialistically. God his this is his plan, okay? This is our plan. This is his plan right here. And the whole point is he wants us all to go to heaven. He doesn't really, that's like the main point, right? He wants us to go to the kingdom of heaven because this stuff doesn't really matter, right? Having a palace and stuff doesn't really matter. And so just that was the point of the verse, chapter 7. The whole chapter 7 on 2 Samuel is very important. You got to read the whole thing. He's talking about Jesus. And, okay. All right, I'm going to have to make another video because this is, I still have a lot to go on 2 Samuel. But I'm going to end it with a good story because the next video is when things go bad for David. Okay. But this is a really good story. This is what's happening with Mephibosheth. Okay, remember he was the boy who his nanny dropped him and he became crippled in both legs for his whole life. Okay, and by this time he's all grown up. He's grown up. Okay, but yeah, he still thinks that David's gonna kill him. He doesn't know, right? Mephibosheth literally means shameful one. Okay. And he had to flee. He left his palace when he was 4 years old. He became crippled, and Mephibosheth literally means shameful one. And he went to live in a land where he went to live in a really bad town, like really outside the outskirts of the town, right? And so King David, he wants to know if there's any more family of Jonathan at this point. And that's when he finds out about this guy, about Mephibosheth. And so they go bring Mephibosheth to him, okay? And Mephibosheth is thinking that King David's finally caught him and he's going to kill him, right? And he's old now. He's older by now. And he even has sons of his own, okay? So time has passed. He's not 4 years old when this is happening, is my point. Okay. So Mephibosheth gets there and he's probably thinking that King David's gonna kill him, right? But he doesn't know that King David's actually a really good guy. And he said does he tell him that, no, I'm not here. I'm not gonna hurt you. I want you to come back to the palace, come live with me, and like you're gonna live like a king, and you're going to eat at my table always. You're going to always eat with me. This is very symbolic, right? And even Mephibosheth, he started bowing down. He says, me? Why do you choose me? I'm like a dead dog. I'm worthless. And King David's like, no, I want you to come to the palace and live with me always and eat at my table. And that's very, it's like Jesus, right? Like he came for the broken people. He wants you to be with him, right? He wants to come and fix the broken people and come out of this old bondage and come sit with him, be with him every day, forever. All right? This is very symbolic of Jesus, okay? Um so that's what's happening right now, and so everything's going good for David. He's doing a lot of good things. He's winning a bunch of battles. Everything's going great. He's building a palace. Him and God are good. But a reminder, guess what his chink in his armor is? He has 8 wives. So that's a hint about what's going to happen next, okay? This is when the fall of King David is coming, because he's the good guy. Everything's going great. Watch what happens. All right, that's going to be in the next video.